Welcome everybody to yet another of my #dead builds. It is yet another dead Vindicator, and it is yet another dead Raka'Jax Vindicator as well. I don't know why, but I don't seem to have luck with this class or this weapon either. I mean, Raka'Jax Vindicator is a build focused around Primal Strike, but actually cooldown Primal Strike. The weapon does not have any attack speed, and also the weapon does incentivize a more like caster playstyle. So this is kind of in a way as if this was a caster playing with a two-handed staff, except it deals like lots of weapon damage as well with the one Primal Strike nuke that you do. But other than that, you also use Wind Devils, Storm Totems, and the Storm Box to deal damage. At least this time I didn't die to Locksmere, but I was actually able to do proper endgame content before dying in the Crucible. I mean, also if I would have used like proper blessings in the Crucible and I didn't attempt to do like a 150 naked run, then I probably wouldn't have died either there. I'm pretty sure this build can complete all the way to 170 with proper blessings without an issue, even on hardcore. But yeah, we cleared all of the main campaign, all the dungeons, Lokarr, Bourbon clones, as well as Mogdrogen this time, so at least the character is viable for some decent endgame content. I don't really know how deep you can push this guy in SR. I did SR 65 to 66. I can imagine this one also being fine for 75 to 76, that should be no problem to farm 75 to 76, but like for deeper shards, I don't know, like you probably will meet your limit rather soon, but it also depends on like how good you are at kiting, honestly, because this is a kiting electrocute build basically, so you can still like push even deeper if you are very good at kiting. So since the character is dead, let's just check it out in Grim Tools, and then at the end I will show you some gameplay clips of the character when it wasn't dead yet. Also, you can check out the full Crucible run until my death as well in another separate video, so feel free to check that one out as well if you would like to. Anyway, let's talk about this Vindicator, right? So we are using 4 skills, Savagery, Primal Strike, Wind Devil, and so on. Obviously you want to max out the Primal Strike as much as you can, with the gear that we are using here at least. So we actually have only 21 points in Primal Strike, 1 point in Torrent, that's just a 1-pointer, and then 20 points to Storm Surge. The main reason why I'm not trying to max this out at all costs is because if I do that, then I will lose points to other strong abilities that are usually used on an electrocute caster, like points to Storm Totem and the Maelstrom. And I believe that those are still, in a way, more important even in a build like this. So we also have 26 out of 16 points in Storm Totem, as you can see, and then like 1 point Wind Devil, 19 points rating Tempest, right, max this out as high as possible as well for the RR, and then 22 points to Maelstrom, max out Maelstrom if you can, to get that like, well, stacking electrocute and lightning damage on all the Wind Devils. Then 1 point Savagery, max out the Tenacity of the Boar, right, 1 point to Storm Touched, and 3 points to Mind of the Bear. This is just there as like a filler in between when you, well, Primal Strike is in cooldown, right, and like you don't cast these abilities, you just attack with Savagery a bit to gain that 8% Fizz Res on the Might of the Bear, as well as the OA on Tenacity of the Boar, as well as the Slow Res and Health Regen percentage, I guess, but I honestly, like, Health Regen doesn't really matter on this spell that much. Also 1 point Storm Touched, I mean, it's some electrocute damage as well, so you want to at least 1 point this. Then we also have Mogdrogen's Pact, this is only a 1-pointer here, 10 points to Heart of the Wild, and then 10 points to Oakskin. Feel free to put more points to Oakskin to get even more armor, right? You can like put some more points here if you would like to. That is not a bad idea at all. 17 points into Brute Force for flat lighting and health, that's basically all this is for. It's not that great, I mean, I would maybe actually in retrospect put some points into Oakskin instead of the points in Brute Force. But yeah, this is what I had for now. Then actually, this is very controversial of course, I had Stonecrawler's Pact instead of Aura of Censure. And this is where the build kind of becomes a little bit weirdish. Of course, always in a Vindicator you could try to go for Aura of Censure, and not only try but like just use it, right? It's easy to do the switch here. And that way the build would be less buttons and also a bit more consistent overall. Since I'm playing Stonecrawler's Pact, I will have like a little bit higher crits, however I will have also a little bit less RR, so the overall damage is maybe about the same or maybe even a little bit worse compared to Aura of Censure, but Stonecrawler's Pact does give me stun res on top, and I use for damage reduction the Horn of Gander instead. This is, well, the additional button to press, right? It has higher damage reduction though than Aura of Censure. The problem with this compared to Aura of Censure is that, well, it's not as consistent, especially for environments like the Crucible, right? One of the reasons why I might have died in the Crucible is because of the Horn of Gander not affecting the enemies anymore when I got killed, and thus I took like more damage. But overall, Heart of Gander is a good skill. It's just on a build like this, it's usually not used because you use Aura of Sense anyway. Also, I have, of course, maxed out Earth Renewal, only 1 point of Vigor because I had like enough HP already. Actually, no, this is 3 points, I'm lying. 5 out of 10, right? For 20% freeze, petrifying, entrapment as well. I had enough HP though, apart from the second when I died. 8 points to Sea Resolve for, well, Aether Rest, Chaos Rest, and more damage to Chthonians and Eldritch. You can also like do it like this, right? 10 points here is fine as well. And then of course 1 point of Word of Arms to, well, have less cooldown dust to be able to heal more frequently and also to give you more energy regeneration. You can use this because we're using a 200 melee or ranged weapon, of course. And then 1 point to Stormbox and 1 point to Lightning Tether. As you can see, I have insane bonuses to these two, and you could also max these out. I'm actually not sure how good exactly maxing these out is, but I feel like on this build it is better to max out the Storm Totem and the Maelstrom, and also Storm Surge and Promise Strike itself. But if you think Stormbox is better than those, then you can also max out the Stormbox instead. From my experience, it's not really better, but it is still, of course, a must-have to pick here because of Raka'Jax giving this 15% lightning resistance reduction and also like tons of electrocute and lightning damage on top. Also 4 points to deadly aim. I mean, 4 points to deadly aim is kind of like the new meta ever since the nerf to deadly aim like a couple of patches ago. So yeah, that's pretty standard for them. Now let me show you how you could put the skill points a little bit differently, right? If you go for Aura of Sense here, right, you wanna remove that, remove this, add points here, add Aura of Sense here, remove Horn of Gander, and then you would like to use Inquisitor's Seal, of course, right? Like Inquisitor's Seal is really great, and then like 1 point Arcane Empowerment as well. Inquisitor's Seal does provide you lots of tankiness as well. It does limit you to standing still in the seal to get that defense though, right? Like if you move around then you won't be able to get the flat absorption here. So it's sometimes you have to stand inside it, sometimes you shouldn't stand inside it. Depends a little bit on the situation. But yeah, this is of course really strong defensively as well. And I mean, if you do these two, then the build is probably all around more defensive actually than what I played. But yeah, I just wanted to like try out how bad / good a Vindicator is with the Stormcast Pact yet again. And I would say actually for damage it was pretty nice, like for example the Mogdrogen kill wasn't too slow and so on. And but yeah, I mean I died in the end, so I guess I did the wrong decision in the end. But yeah, this is what it would look like, right, if you played Aura Sense here instead. For devotions, this is what I'm running. You can see these are rather offensive with a triple tier 3 Korvac, Spirit of the Heavens as well as Ultos, and you could spec these to be a little bit more defensive, like for example the ones that I was using on my Ludwigan Druid. The devotions that I was using on my Ludwigan Druid are overall more balanced, and yeah, maybe this build would also have not died if I used the Ludwigan Druid devotions instead. But here we are, right? So tier 3 devotions Ultos, max out all the nodes here except for the 1 point here, right? Elemental Storm, you need Elemental Storm because you don't have flat resistance reduction as a Vindicator on this build at least, so you want this as well. For that you need to pick up the Quill, right? 3 purple here, then you have the Rowan's Crown. Then you also have 3 points Hawk because, I mean, you need the green anyway for Ultos and Korvac, but also Hawk reduces your cunning requirement for ranged weapon, which is great if you're using Raka'Jax. Then for sustain we have the Bat, we have the Chains of Brandus Vitality to Lightning conversion belt as well for this, to heal us even more from the Bat. And then some more fitters like Jackal, Viper, Lizard, Satyrs Guide and Eel. These are literally just there for like, well, affinity and nothing else. Then the Arcane Bomb is also a must-have for every single lightning build in the game, so you need to play this. And then Korvac and Spear is just insane, like to have 3 tier 3 devotions, and lightning devotions are really great for that. So yeah, Spear, very, I mean, straightforward, right? Just pick all the nodes, and then Korvac. This node over here is also great, of course, but I wasn't quite able to fit it in. If you are somehow able to get this one, then you can also use this node. The other node is a little bit less important, I feel like. Let me also show you real quick how to make these devotions yourself. So early on into the game, right, you would always start with Jackal, and then also you want the Bat, right? You want the Bat and say the Quill. And then you put like this to whatever you're using, right? And then you want blue devotions such as the Eel or Satyr's Guide right away. And if you're leveling with a tuner and playing Promise Strike, then obviously while leveling you would like to get the Kraken, right? You might be wondering, hey, why are you not using Kraken in your endgame build, right? I mean, you can use it, I think. You can use it. However, the main reason why I was not using Kraken is because if you do use Kraken, then it is hard to, well, fit in the triple tier 3 actives, And also, I don't really need the attack or constant speed that badly because the build is basically a, well, electrocute / cooldown reduction caster, right? So I don't really need the Kraken, really. But yeah, while leveling, this is great. And you also need the Viper, right? The Viper is really good. Then Arcane Bomb, of course. And then you wanna get towards Ultos, right? So for Ultos, you want Hawk, but you also want Rowan's Crown, first of all. So you like take a purple one here, then you get the Crown. Then you can remove these two, and you can also like kind of remove all of these already now, and then get the Hawk as well, and then you have, for example, access to Ultos already. And after completing Ultos, you, well, just need more blue, right? You need 18 blue and 20 blue for this, so you want Blizzard as well as Sailor's Guide, and then you basically can get both Spear as well as the Korok Devotion. Now the Korok Devotion, you always want to put the Wind Devils, right? Wind Devils are insane for Korok. This one I put to Prom Strike, I mean that's fine I guess. And then this one you want to put to, well, your, say, Stormbox for example. This one you want to put to your Totems, so that like the Totems attacking the enemies heal you, even if you like run around in a circle like a chicken, right? And then the Hand of Ultos you can put to, for example, Savagery, or whatever other ability you're using. Like you could also put it on the Seal, right? Inquisitor's Seal if you're using that one. That is totally fine. And then this one of course like goes into any like defensive permanent aura. Now when it comes to the gear, obviously the Raka'Jax weapon is the core of the build. This is what I wanted to play around, and this is why I obviously have this weapon. This one gives you, well, bonuses to Promise Strike, Electrocute damage to Promise Strike, and also like resistance reduction to Stormbox of Elgoloth. So yeah, it's not a bad weapon overall, but I see many times people use this to spam, for spam Promise Strike as well. It has no attack speed, it has Electrocute damage, so it's kind of bad for spam Promise Strike in my opinion. If you want to spam Promise Strike instead, just use an Agdenborg Spark Thrower, for example. That should be way better than this one anyway. For like my armor, I'm actually using the 4-piece Lights Defender set. Lights Defender set is a pretty nice Electrocute set. It supports Stormbox as well as the Storm Totem very nicely. And yeah, it does actually fit this kind of playstyle really well. The problem with this set, however, is that it has lots of armor, which is decent. However, it has like no physical resistance, so it is kind of prone to like big physical hits, and I guess that's also why I died. But yeah, I would think still this is like the best set to use alongside Raka'Jax, because yeah, as I said like earlier, right, Raka'Jax is Electrocute focused, and Lights Defender is somewhat Electrocute focused as well. I mean, the Ludwig set is even more about Electrocute, but Ludwig sets like blocks like the weapon, right, and also blocks the metal. And for the metal you want to use Mark of the Farseer to add even more Electrocute damage to Promise Strike. So yeah, the Lights Defender doesn't actually block anything apart from like Ultos set. Obviously you could also play Ultos set instead, that is fine as well. But yeah, I feel like Ultos set is even squishier than Lights Defender set, so I don't know about Ultos set. Also, if you're using Ultos set, you cannot use Azrakar's Sands, and Azrakar's Sands is a pretty nice defensive amulet that is overall like great for a build like this. I don't know, I mean, it didn't save me from dying, but generally Azrakar's Sands is actually a great amulet, and it's very nice for another like defensive proc, because you kind of want to keep your metal and your relic for damage, right? You want to use Eye of the Storm relic for damage, you want to use Mark of the Farseer for damage, and then, well, the amulet slot is actually a decent slot to, well, put your circuit breaker on, and Rewind Fate is a good circuit breaker. However, it, well, only activates once you drop below 25% of HP, which is why you want to have like lots of HP, and yeah, sometimes not even that is enough. For the pants, we're using Stormcage Legards. These are insane because of +2 points to Maelstrom and Raging Tempest. Really good for any kind of Electrocute build, and like insanely good. Just like the Storm Bearers, right? Another +3 to Maelstrom, making those Wind Devils really hit hard, and yeah, that's pretty good. For the belt, as I said earlier, I'm using a Brandis belt, right? This is a Starvat of the Cabal. I mean, as you can see, this is not the best roll you can get. Literally, so many other things would be better at. I did use a of the Cabal because of the stun rest on the suffix, which is pretty nice, as you can see, right? I'm barely scratching that 80% stun rest with Stormcaller's Pact and the Brandis belt. If you get something like a Thunderstruck of Readiness, that is obviously way better than this, but I didn't have it. But yeah, if you have it, just use a Thunderstruck of Readiness, like that's insane. Right, that should be fixing also to your stun rest as well as like away and give you like more % damage as well. For rings, I'm using one Kel'Thuzad Zoth for +2 to Stormcaller's Pact, as well as the Glyph of Kel'Thuzad Zoth proc, right, which just gives you like more lightning damage overall. Pretty decent, pretty decent. You can use other rings, of course, if you want to, but this is like one of the good ones. And then also I'm using one Allocation Storm Gem, mostly for the 5% offensive ability. Like you can get up to 5% away here, which is insane. Also +2 to lightning tether, so like more bonuses to that storm box is pretty welcome here as well. For augments I'm using triple Sky Shard Powder, I believe. That should be rather standard for lightning, for like an offensive build like this. And then potent Solaris Glare on the weapon, right? The cold lightning, electrocute damage, pierce rust, HP. Pretty good. And then like the rest is just like whatever you have, right, to fix the resistances, whatever you need to fix resistances rather. And the remaining things can become Solaris Blood Binding for augments. And for components, I mean, same thing, right? Use components to fix resistances, use components to fix your armor absorption, use Seal of Annihilation in your amulet, and like something like Tainted Heart, for example, in metal. There are other options that you can use here, but yeah, this is fine for now. Also in your weapon, you can use Hellbane's ammo, right, to get even more damage, as I did, or you can also go for one of the seals, like Seal of Corruption, Seal of Blade, Seal of Might, and like all of those are fine as well. So yeah, that is the build. Let me just roll some endgame clips so you can check out the gameplay of this character. It is very piano-ish with like many buttons to press actually. So yeah, maybe not the best build for your wrists, but it is fun to play for sure.
I am soft.
And he's gone. Alright. Not yet. We will have a date at some point. When we're like close to being ready. Like when Stan and the other programmers are like close to being ready and like everything has been tested properly, decently, I guess. Until then, we still have to wait. Wait and see. And what Crate is doing with their patch, that's like completely independent from us, so... yeah. I don't know, we'll see, right? We shall see. Right, Stan is a new laptop actually. Did it actually die on him? I mean, he said that the other day, but like, I didn't know if it like died for good or... Really? He's gonna go stage 3 invulnerable for like the last second. Are you kidding me? How can you die this? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should just like play Skyrim then, I guess. But maybe also I shouldn't, because I don't really care that much about playing Skyrim, to be honest. I think the only real like story-driven RPG or like classic RPG, you know, like Witcher 3, like the Witcher games or the Oblivion series, I mean the Elder Scrolls series and stuff like that I would actually play again is probably like Gothic 1. That means I should check what it is. I mean, you could have like a Candy Crush date, I guess. Like meet hot MILFs in your area, right? Go to Candy Crush. What the hell? I'm picking it up. Fuck, now I have to like mute the audio for Alchemist when I do this, like put this on YouTube. Oh, okay. I mean, Mad Queen should be easier on a build like this, right? I mean, I'm gonna proc her projectiles like crazy, but I can also just like run around, right? Yeah. Chupacabra? Copacabana? Chupacabra? Yeah, I have, I mean, on this bird right now. We could try to hunt him down, right? Okay, let's try to hunt down Chupacabra here. Let's do that as like the last thing of today. Oh, hey, there he is. That was easy to find. Okay, where do we fight him? I mean, around here, man. That's fine. Put on some totems here, right? Hey, Kuba, how are you? Come here. Hello. And he's dead. Nope, I got hit. That is bad. Yep, that is very bad. Bonka. And I use them a lot, I guess. I mean, cocktail, you always use cocktail, right? Yep, cocktail. Always use that anyway, right? Like, always, Demon. That's like so good, dude. Oh, this is off to a bad start, not gonna lie. And why might you wonder? Well, because I took the projectile before I used my promise strike, right? Oh hey Reaper, what the fuck? Random Reaper appears. Reaper of the Lost Omega Law. I should have already pulled them. Whoops! Scuffed! Where's my pot? Alright. Actually, just reapply, right? Otherwise, I'm gonna forget about reapplying. How do we heal on this character? I have no clue. That's gonna be soul sculpt. Where's the music even? Can't hear. Mocha. Just press all the buttons, right? Like, just spam all the buttons all the time, and then it's like good, right? Heal. Nice chat, Illuminator. Alright, I mean, first 50% is easy, right? Second part is like the hard part, obviously. Because he's gonna enrage, get like more damage as well as more damage absorption. Which starts like basically right now, right? Alright. We need his pets, right? We need to leech off the pets. Otherwise we only have heal and pot, and that's kinda unreliable sometimes, honestly. Can we heal? Hello? I mean, if you're playing ranged, at least you can make sure to not stand inside the cloud, right? Which is nice, I guess. Right, you don't have to stand inside the cloud. Like, range actually does have its benefits in this game. Like, many people say, yeah, like, range is just melee with extra steps. It's not entirely true, right? You still have advantages as ranged. Especially as a ranged caster though, right? Like, range with pistols and like auto-attacker is... yeah, that's kinda scoped. Just honk, what the fuck? What the fuck? What is this damage at the end? Alright, there we go. I mean... pretty good, right? He never procced my Raka'Jax Sands immediate. Never managed to do that. And yeah, we don't even have Seal, right? Not even using Seal. Not even using Aural Sensor. For that, I think the build is pretty good, right?